we're going to do the final ABCs of Narrowboating videos for my cousin Erica. And hopefully George will allow us to actually complete this.
The last one we did was M to R, so today is S to Z.
Yeah, or Z if you're from parts of the world other than this one. As always, we kind of missed some, and so we had some people pointing out that there were some things that we'd skipped over. The most commonly mentioned by quite a few people was a good point. Overboard.
O is for overboard.
O is for overboard. Overboard is what happens when you come off the boat.
Unintentionally, into the water.
I suppose it could happen intentionally too, but you shouldn't really be doing. Only one of us thus far has been significantly overboard.
And that was George, and it was intentional. It was his bid for freedom.
Off the back of the boat a couple of days ago.
And the other one we missed apparently was...
Quarrage. There were a few other things people pointed out for cues, but this was the one that was the most sort of interesting and appropriate. Quarrage is the actual term for the tidal bore sort of thing that happens on the River Severn, where if the tidal flux of the water going up goes high enough up the river, it stops being known as the bore and becomes quarrage. So go figure that.
So S is for share boat. So a share boat is where a group of people will each own a share in a boat, and they'll be entitled to a certain number of weeks on the boat each year. They'll share the costs of buying the boat and any repairs and maintenance that they're doing, depending on how big their share is with everyone else.
They're fairly common. You know, you can't really recognize them because they're...
Some of them you can.
Yeah, but most of them are
just look like normal.
Or just a normal private boat. It's just they happen to have shared ownership. It's not like a hire boat where you can see sort of the name of a fleet or anything.
And usually there's a managing company that will
actually organize it all and everything. We saw quite a few of them available for sale. They were actually typically in better condition than...
Well, everything gets looked after. All the maintenance is kept up to date.
Yeah, pretty much because everybody has a smaller portion of the total cost. S is for swan's neck. The swan's neck is the swan's neck or gooseneck shaped piece of metal at the back of the boat to which the tiller attaches on the top and to which the rudder attaches on the bottom. So it's shaped like that, and it gives you extra leverage. If it wasn't sort of a swan's neck shape where it kind of bends back and then forwards, then you'd actually have to put more force onto the rotary point.
S is also for saloon, which is basically like the living area of the boat. The
sort of, living room, salon.
Our saloon is actually used as Michael's office, so it's not really a saloon. S is for shoreline, which is where you plug your boat into the shore.
It's a 220 to 240 volt AC connection that gets made with generally sort of a pod, well, either on the pier or on the shore.
Most boats that live in a marina will have shoreline connections.
And basically it's a cable with a kind of waterproof connector with a cap that you open up and you plug in and rotate into your boat, and that will directly power your battery charger, which will then power the rest of your boat. It'll also power your AC circuit. So you'll basically have a...
You're basically plugged into the mains.
Yeah, it's more or less like having city mains on your boat. It adds to some problems. It's why your boat needs to have something called a galvanic isolator, which is what keeps the AC power from transferring through the hull and grounding out to the bottom of the sort of water in such a way that it causes more galvanic corrosion. And it also is where you need to have like some serious ground fault interrupters, because you can get into a situation where the boat hull is sort of at a different potential than the shore or the dock. And if that ever happens, then anybody stepping from one point to another gets electrocuted, which is very, 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 very bad. So it's why shoreline connections should never be wired by amateurs. S is for stern, which is the look Joe gets on her face sometimes when I ramble on too much.
It's actually the back of the boat.
It's the back of the boat. Yeah, that's pretty much all the stern is.
S is also for starboard, which is...
Let's see which one it is.
That one.
Yes.
That one.
Oh, that's port.
That one.
Starboard. So starboard is to the right when looking forward on the boat.
S is also for swan's hatch. I don't know if they're actually officially called swan's hatches. Do people call them duck hatches or hatch? Basically, we call our doors that open on the side of the boat the swan hatch. It's just a window.
Call it the side hatch as well.
Yeah, but it's where we go to feed the swans that come and tap on the boat.
which they do quite often and loudly.
Yeah. Some people have them on both sides. I kind of wish we had the kitchen window like that. And also some people have bits of glass or acrylic that they can pop in so they can open it up and have the lights, but without the cold air coming in.
Yeah, I'd actually love to make one of those.
Yeah. S is also for swing bridge, which is a bridge that swings.
Yeah.
So it's basically a bridge that pivots on a point, so you can push it either with manual power or some of them are hydraulic, and they'll swing to the side out of the way to let you through.
S is also for sail away. A sail away is essentially just a hull that normally the outside has been painted.
There's all different options from what I understand, but they've usually got an engine fitted.
Which means the fuel tank's fitted, the transmission and prop are fitted. You've got means of moving the boat.
It can sail.
It's not livable.
It's not got a kitchen or any furniture or any insulation even. Nothing inside. No electrics, no water, no plumbing, no walls, no ceiling, probably no floor, maybe no ballast, because until you know what furniture you're going to put in, you don't know what ballast you need. So it's sailable but not necessarily livable.
I have seen a couple of brochures from companies that do a sail away plus, and that will have typically like the shower fitted,
Right.
the water fitted.
So maybe some of the more tricky things then.
The more tricky things like gas and water are sort of done for you.
I think it's a really appealing idea personally, because then you get the boats that you absolutely want. But I think one reason we didn't pursue it is because we'd never lived on a boat before and we didn't really know what we wanted. So I think it's quite a brave thing to do. And the other thing is we've seen a lot of boats. Like when we were shopping, we saw a lot of boats that were fitted out so badly.
Yes. Sailaways are, I think, a great idea if you've got carpentry experience.
You know what you're doing, you know what you want.
Or you're hiring people who do storage. S is for storage. We're quite minimalist and we don't really have a lot of stuff. We try to be minimalist.
Minimalist?
Odd.
So yeah, we only have, like, you might have noticed, like 4 sets of outfits each. And like kitchen stuff is just all functional. We have our computer equipment and camera equipment.
The majority of the rest of it is tools and, things related to the dog.
Yeah, we don't really have any possessions. One reason is because storage is limited on the boat, but we have more storage than we need. We've got the whole of under our bed is completely empty.
It shouldn't be. We should be using that.
The cupboards under our kitchen are half empty. Under here is just dog food. Like, we don't really have much stuff. But storage can be a problem on a boat if you like stuff.
Well, S is for shower, and showering on a boat is a different thing than you're used to on the land.
Yeah, so you have potentially less hot water.
And you have less pressure.
Yeah.
The pressure is provided by a 12-volt pump that kicks in and actually pumps the water to you. Yeah, you do tend to have a lot less pressure.
And you have less height. When you stand in the shower, your head...
I basically can't stand in the shower.
No. So
I have to sit.
We definitely shower less than we would in a house. Like, there's no two ways about it.
Because you're limited by water capacity, you're limited by the capacity of your calorifier, which is I think, our real problem. We have a small and not very efficient calorifier. So when we use the Eberspacher or we run the engine and we get hot water, it only lasts about maybe 3 hours before it's gone cold again.
Especially in winter.
Yeah. S is for stern gland. It's the hole through which the shaft that goes to the prop passes through the hull of the boat. That hole is packed with actually like rope, basically, which is covered in grease. And that acts as a watertight seal that still allows the shaft to rotate.
Why don't we have a stern gland?
We sort of technically do have a stern gland. It's just not one in which you have to pack grease into it. We have sort of a hydraulic system that acts more like sort of 2 shafts. So our shaft from our engine drives one thing, and then there's a piece inside there that acts as a clutch and drives the other. It's a little bit different.
T is for tiller. So the tiller is what attaches to the swan's neck via the tiller pin, and you move it to steer the boat, and you kind of move it in the opposite direction. So you move it this way to steer that way, and this way to steer that way.
T is also for tiller pin, which is the pin that literally goes through 2 holes in the tiller itself and holds it to the swan's neck. They've actually got quite a bit of a history.
And I get tiller pin envy.
We've got this boring little brass thing that's just, sort of it looks like an ice pick sort of thing. But there's all these people going by who have like little cast rabbit and eagles, and I've seen a couple of little cars and airplanes.
The funniest thing is when we're casting off and Michael does the engine and everything. We undo the ropes and we push him off, and then he turns around to grab the tiller and it's not there. It's not been attached. It's still in the boat.
I kind of wouldn't mind having a nicer tiller pin.
What would you have?
I don't know, something.
Springer Spaniel.
Yeah, a Springer Spaniel tiller pin, like a George tiller pin or something.
What's the history?
Oh, they were another piece of decoration, like the roses and castles.
T is also for tunnel light, so every boat should have a light on the bow for
Going into tunnels.
navigating through tunnels, yeah.
Yeah. They're actually kind of a compromise. A lot of boats I've seen have basically just like a spotlight, or there are people who I've seen who have like a very directional flashlight. But actually, the best kind of tunnel lights seem to be more like fog lamps that have a very diffuse beam instead of kind of a long
Yeah, because you can
spot.
get blinded by someone coming towards you.
When you've got the spotlight, it's very directional, and when ours goes on, ours is sort of pointed out to the sides, so I actually get quite a bit of light sort of cascading off the walls and everything.
You can see where you are within the tunnel.
Yeah, they also come in all sorts of different forms. There's incandescent ones. I think they were originally like candles, like kerosene candles and gas lamps, and now the one we've installed is LED.
Probably should have done this one first, but T's also for tunnel.
Yeah, that's true.
So tunnel is just obviously a tunnel, but is a way to navigate through a hill. And there's some that you have to have like someone come on board and take you through. Some have traffic light systems. There's some where you just go, and if you meet your boat coming, you just have to try and pass them. T is also for Tom puddings.
We found out about this by listening to Joe's dad. I think he actually said he saw them back when he was a kid. Tom puddings were a kind of chain of boats, which were cargo boats that were all tied together and moved on the Air and Calder navigation, which was like South Yorkshire, and it was for carrying coal. Rather than a bunch of individual boats with individual crews moving this stuff, they would take many, many boats, tie them together, and then one...
Like a train of little boats.
Yeah.
Why Tom pudding?
Oh, because right, I read about this. They were called Tom pudding. I don't know where the Tom comes from. Probably something to do with the tub boat. But they got the name pudding from the fact that they look like a black pudding. When they were filled up with coal, they would have some sort of tarp over top of them, and apparently they looked like a floating black pudding. U is for the Uxter plate. The Uxter plate is going to be a bit hard to describe. It is the piece of steel on the bottom side, so the portion that touches the water, of the portion of the boat where the tiller goes through to attach to the rudder.
V is for the Victorians.
The Victorians. These were basically the people who gave us the heyday of canals in England. They started slightly earlier than the Victorians, the race to build all the canals and everything, but the golden age of canals basically ran through the era of Queen Victoria's reign. So the Victorian age was to a certain extent kind of the golden period of canals. The end of the Victorian age was the end,
Beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end, really, of the canals as a working part of the infrastructure of England. V is for Victron. Victron is basically one of the major manufacturers of electrical components for boats. They produce our MPPT solar converter and also our battery monitor and also
Our 12 volts.
12 volt to 12 volt DC stabilizer and our
Inverter.
small inverter. Victron's just one name among several for companies.
But it's quite a well-known one, and it's quite a trusted one. W is for windlass. Oh, you happen to have a prop.
I have a prop.
A windlass is the tool that you use to crank the handle on a lock, to raise and lower the paddle, to raise and lower the water inside a lock. So it's got a kind of square hole, and you hook it on, and then you can wind the windlass. So this is an aluminium one, so it's pretty light.
And kind of posh. We got this one sort of by accident because we came across a shop that was shutting down and gave them to us for dirt cheap.
Yeah.
Wow.
My favourite trick in a lock is to unwind it and then chuck it down on the grass. And then you have to lower it. You're like, where did I put my windlass? I do that every time.
It actually comes from windlash. Windlasses were these great huge turnstiles which were used to raise sails on sailing boats and stuff. So you would use that to lash the sail, lash the wind. And so then we ended up calling these things windlasses. The handle that actually goes on to the crank. This is actually a crank, but it gets the name windlass. It's a very old word.
Why is W for winding hole called a winding hole? Which is where you turn your boat round. Like, so it's a section of canal that's larger than normal, which will allow the boat to turn.
Because it sounds like it should be pronounced winding hole, so you can wind yourself or rotate somehow. But no, it's called a winding hole because you would normally position it so that the prevailing wind would be coming.
Oh, just spin you for you.
Yeah, so you would turn into the wind, and as you turn into the wind is coming across your bow. As you rotate, it begins to assist you by pushing on the bow at the front.
So usually a winding hole will have like a maximum length of boat that can wind there. W is for wide beam, and a wide beam is basically not a narrow beam. So
It's a narrow boat that's twice as wide.
it's it's a wide boat, a wide beam.
Yeah.
So a narrow boat is about 6'7" wide, and a wide beam is between 10 and 14 foot.
Yeah.
So the advantage is you've got a lot more space. Disadvantages that you won't be able to go on any of the canals where there's narrow locks, like the Oxford.
South Oxford and various other places we've gotten to.
Okay, W is also for weed hatch. And so the weed hatch is basically access point near your propeller so that you can go down into the water with your arm and
A bread knife.
and untangle anything that's got wrapped around your propeller. So it could be weeds or wire or fishing line or clothes or plastic bags or whatever it might be.
The weed hatch basically, sort of for the most part, is meant to be a position through which you can clean off the shaft that attaches to your prop, because when that gets fouled, you really can't move anymore.
Yeah, it really affects your steering and your propulsion.
Yeah, it is also kind of the weakest point in the linkage of staying afloat.
Yeah, you must never forget to put your weed hatch cover back on, because if it's not there, when the propeller starts turning, it will just basically fill your boat with water.
Yeah.
Okay, W is also for working boat.
Yeah, it's a traditional style of boat that is used for cargo carrying.
Yeah.
So it used to be that you'd have this very large portion at the front of a working boat.
That would just be open, so you could just pour in whatever.
Yeah, and then you had the workman's cabin at the back and the engine room. They're really nice boats. Not all of them are actually old. There are more recent manufacturers who have made boats in that style. There's also a lot of them around that are actually still in use as working boats, where you will be passed by a boat laden with coal, and they'll sell you fuel. And sometimes diesel boats right off the canal. So those are the fuel boats.
W is also for winter stoppage. So every year there's a schedule for maintenance, and it usually happens between November and March, where the canals are a lot quieter. So there'll be a schedule of works, usually on the locks, where they're doing maintenance, replacing lock gates or whatever else they're doing. And so a lock or a section of canal might be closed from anything from 4 or 5 days to 5 months. When the list of winter stoppages are published, you can then go through and plan your route. W is also for winter mooring. The Canal and River Trust give over a certain percentage of visitor moorings to people in the winter, so that they can have a permanent mooring or a semi-permanent mooring for the 5 winter months, November to March, and they'll pay a price per metre per month, and I think it's between £5 and £16, depending on how good the location is. We were on the Kennet and Avon when they actually got released, and some of them sold out really quickly. I think they got released at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. and at 5 past.
For the really popular ones.
They were gone. But then, when we were travelling up the Oxford, and we haven't seen nearly as many winter moorings as we saw on the Kennet and Avon. And
there's quite a few that are marked, but there's nobody there.
They're empty. Yeah. So it's interesting. And the other thing that happens in winter is where you have 24 or 48-hour moorings, visitor moorings, they revert to 2-week moorings. So it's really good for us, because here we're actually on 48-hour moorings, but we've got the full 2 weeks. Unless it specifies on the mooring all year round, they all revert to 2 weeks, so that's really good.
Nice. On the W thing, there's also winterizing. Now, winterizing is preparing the boat for winter.
Is that more if you're not going to be aboard?
It's well, you still have to do some of it. You should do an oil change. You should definitely top up your coolant, but you might actually want to change your coolant to put in more antifreeze and stuff.
If you're not going to be using it, you should keep the diesel topped up so you don't get diesel bug.
Yeah, or completely emptied out. Same things with water and stuff. You don't want your water tank freezing, but you should winterize your boat, especially if you're going to not be on it for the winter.
Because so you're not there to see anything that goes wrong. We're on X. X, we couldn't think of any X's, so I decided X is for expensive, because
living on a boat isn't as cheap as people might think it is.
Some things are cheap, and it generally is a cheap way of life, but you don't do it purely for the reason for a cheap way of living, because it's not. There's things you don't know you're going to have to pay for, and things come up.
The ongoing expenses tend to be fairly reasonable and predictable, but the unpredictable expenses can quickly offset the savings.
And there's lots of ongoing maintenance.
Yeah, and when something fails, anything that fails on a boat is a specialized thing.
Yeah.
So that thing is going to be a pricey thing to replace. You should be aware of the fact that if you're living on a boat, it is not
cheap.
A necessarily frugal, cheap lifestyle. So.
Y is for YouTube.
Yes.
So, I don't know if you know this, but there's quite a lot of people who live on narrowboats that make YouTube videos. Yeah.
Don't know if you know this, but there's this website called YouTube where you're able to download and watch videos essentially for free with the possible cost of having to watch an advertisement every once in a while. It's not a very popular site and not a lot of people know about it, but But
if you're interested in narrowboats, you should definitely check it out.
Check it out.
If you're interested in anything, you'll probably find a video on it.
Yeah, pretty much anything.
And there's a lot of...
If there's anything you can't find on YouTube, you probably shouldn't be all that interested in it.
Or you should start the channel. Yeah, there's not hundreds, there's tens of YouTube channels for narrowboating. And they're all different.
Good tens. Y is also for Yanmar. Yanmars are basically just a name brand of manufacturer of diesel engines that are normally used for things like generators and tractors and things like that. They're one of the world's largest manufacturers of diesels, and their engines are often marinized by companies for use in narrowboats. Ours is, for instance, a Barris Shire, which is a Yanmar 45 horsepower engine that has been converted to marine use in a boat.
And we don't have any Z's. Z is for
zebra crossings.
But you don't get them on the canal.
I suppose if something's gone seriously wrong.
Got one.
Z
is for zoos. And so if you travel along the Regent's Canal in London, you can actually moor your boat outside London Zoo while you visit.
Yes, right beside the... it was the African wild dogs, wasn't it? Yeah.
You impressed?
That's pretty good. If you know any Z's, first subscribe, and then send us a message about anything related to a Z or Z. Yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you learned something. This is the end of the ABCs of Narrowboating, so this is the first series of videos we've done that we know we've completed for sure.
Thanks for the idea, Erica.
Our dog is going crazy right now. We have to get him outside and throw a ball for him. So, click, subscribe.
Click. You always say click.
Okay, why do I say click? I don't know why I say click. Click the like and subscribe thingamajiggies.
And comment.
And tell us what we've missed, because we definitely missed some words starting with Z.
Welcome to Snoring with George, the Springer Spaniel.
The Snoring Springer Spaniel.
S is for Snoring Springer Spaniel.
What are you doing?
Uh-oh, George.
Now we've got a problem, George. Your ball has disappeared. And you're going to go over the table for it. Okay, hold on. There's a particular point at which you have to pass for it to become courage. I did not write down what that particular point was, but it is interesting.
George, that's really annoying.
So, from R's onwards.
S is also for Shoreline, which is basically when you...
Ow, Jesus.
Oh, I just touched his willy by mistake.
Well, because we should mention the fact that it's like the place where people gamble in cowboy movies. Oh, Jesus.
The saloon is also the place where people gamble in cowboy movies, Michael wants me to tell you.
That's an important part of, American history. Because he's going to do that the entire time.
He'll fall asleep eventually. George is being a diva.
Good Lord, that's loud. Where were we?
We're about to throw the dog out of the window.
Yes.
S is for Shoreline, and Shoreline is when you plug your boat into a power supply on the shore.
Good God. George! He's being mischievous today.
We'll see if he wants to sit down there.
Let me get his noisemaker off.
Does anyone want a dog?
Spaniel. S is for spaniel. They are always on, which is basically true of Shoreline as well. Yeah. Oh, you're a sweet
Let him
boo-boo.
down.
He doesn't want down. Now he wants down. No, I'm not going to say it. Jesus. S is for stern.
No, Shoreline. You need
We're still going on a shoreline.
What kind of connector is it? Yeah, it might not even have that. It might not have ballast.
How did that happen?
Stop.
Exit bottom corner.
Hey, well, there's a business for us to go to.
Yeah, go into tiller pin manufacturing.
Buy 3D printer.
Yeah.
Like we could do one like of people's faces and.
Mm-hmm. Nobody steal that. Stern gland is just a
Gland for the stern.
yeah.
So, this is not snoring with George. This is panting with George.
George is being a little bit of a handful today. T is also for tea, which is very important in England, but not to us.
What's that got to do with canals?
Well, everybody's always got a kettle on.
Oh yeah, so do we.
Well, we've always got a kettle on, but it's never being used for tea.
It's for hot water bottles.
Yeah, but yeah, just basically exclusively hot water bottles.
To have one on the Thames where you've got so much space.
Yeah. How are you still doing that
I
10
don't know,
minutes
it's
later?
really annoying. You don't have all the
Non-winter people.
yeah, the soft people that only go out in summer. Oh, winter rise. I was like, what's winter rising?
Winter rising. Yeah. They're just, diesel engines made by a company that, for reasons of reliability and inexpensiveness, often get winterized.
Winterized.
Not winterized.
Marinized.
Marinized. And winterized if you're good to your engine. Primarily, whoa, okay. Hello, George. Hi. Oh, yeah, okay. Jesus. Involves the sound of a consonant and the sound of a
George just
dog
farted.
farting.